This is Gemara Zevachim Daf Lamid Zayin as we begin another new perek here in Mesechus Zevachim perek Beis Shammai, a perek that's going to continue the halachas of pigol. Particularly, we're going to begin with pigol again. Machshavais zarais, incorrect intent during different avodas. We're going to focus on the zrika. And within the Zrika, we're going to break down different parts of the Zrika. And once again, all the learning should be an incredible schos refuah shalema for Gabriel Simcha ben Miriam Ahuva b'seich shar chilei Yisrael. Beishamai oimrim. Begins the Mishnah, teaches Beishamai kol anitanim al mizbeach achitzayin. Anything, all the blood that is put on the mizbeach achitzayin, shenasan b'matona achas, if it's placed with one placing, kiber, that gives a kapara, even if really you need two matanos, two placings. Let's look at the first Rashi over here in the parak. He spells out zricha achas kiber afli sharuban tunin shtei matanos. Even though really the majority need two matanos shein arba, two applications on the corners which touches all four sides. But if you went and you did it once, says the Mishnah, kiber, you get your kapara. Ubechatos. And in the case of a chatos, in which you need arba matanos, shtei matanos, says by Shammai, if you get two out of the four, then it gives you the kapara. Beis Hillel oimrim, af chatos, even a chatos, shenastam b'matana achas, kiper. Says Beis Hillel, no, even by a chatos, one matana will affect a kapara. Continues the Mishnah, according to everyone, lefikach, im nasan es harishayna, kitikana. If you made the first application of blood, the first matana, the first zrika, if you did it kitikana as you were supposed to do it, with the appropriate machshava, vesashniya, then the second time you placed the blood, what did you think? Chutz lizmana, which is a machsheves pigol. Says the Mishnah, because we just learned that one matana, one zrika, one application of the dam suffices, therefore, kiper, even though the second had an incorrect machshava, you'll still get your kapara. But, let's say the first one you placed, you had the wrong intent. Which we already know the difference being chutz zmana, eflex, full-fledged pigol, chutz l'mekayma, just passels. It says the Mishnah, if the first was chutz zmana, second was chutz l'mekayma, then pigol, v'chayavin alav kares, creates pigol, and your chayiv kares. Continues the Mishnah. This is in contrast with the first halacha. Any application on the inner mizbeach, if you're missing one, then it's as if you did not get a kapara lefikach. If you place them all properly, and va'achas shaloi kitikana, then psula vein by kares. Because since that which goes bipinimi, it's more integral to zrikos. And if you're missing one, it passels. If you're missing one, it's kilu like kiper. So therefore, if you did three that are good, but one that's messed up, it's going to passel, but ve'ein by karis. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, beginning the first din in the Mishnah, Minayin, two lines on the bottom, Lamedvav and base. Minayin l'nitanal mizbeach achitzayin, shenasan b'matana achas. How do you know that the blood placed on the mizbeach achitzayin suffices? The diavad, of course, with one matana shekiper, that it affects the kapara. Talmud Leimar, we learn it from the pasuk. V'edam zevachecha yishboich. Says the Torah, the blood you shall pour, which shows us in the singular, as the bottom Rashi spells out, shvicha achas mashma, and therefore we could learn that if you did it one time, b'diavad will apply, it will affect your kapara. Ask the Gemara, but wait, vaylachi udasa, haimi bailech l'tanya, but we need that pasuk for a different din, as we learned in our brisa, as we turn over to Mezayim and Aleph. Minayin, from where do we know? Lechol adamim shetunim matan dam liyasoid. From where do we know that all blood has to be placed on the side of the mizbeach? What is the mekar? Talmud loymar, says the Torah, v'dam zevachechi yishbaich. So says the Gemara, as the top Rashi spells out, meaning that you need to always have an application of the blood on the side. Says the Gemara, you know that from the dam zevachechi yishbaich. So how can you use that pasuk for our Joshua? Explains the Gemara, Nafkale Midirebi. The Brisa learns the second din from the din of Rebbe, the ten Rebbe Yomer and Isha B'dam Yimsa Yimotze. Says the pasuk, the rest of the blood Yimotze should be pushed out onto the side. She'ain tam loymar bidam. Didn't have to say bidam, because from the beginning of the pasuk, we know we're talking about dam. Matam alaymer bidam. Why does the Torah say that? Lefi shaloi lamanu ala nitnin matan dalid sheteunin matan damim liyasoid. You know why it says bidam? To teach us that anytime dam is placed 4 times matan dalid, like a chatas, it also needs to be placed in the Yisoid. Shar damim minayin. For where do we know other bloods also have to go in the Yisoid? Tamalay mervin ishar badam yimatzei. She'ain tamalay mer badam. Matamalay badam limin al kol adam yishatuna matadamim li Yisoid. That everything needs to go onto the Yisoid. So says the Gemara, we do not need the pasuk of his dam zevachechi yishbaich to teach us the blood goes in the Yisoid. Because we know from this drasha. And therefore, if we know from this drasha, therefore, we could use B'dam Zevachechi Yishbaich for our drasha. Continues the Gemara, Vakati Lahachi Udasa. 10 lines down, the first one line is Vakati. But is it true that from here we learn out that placing the dam one time, the din in our Mishnah suffices? But we need the pasuk for something else. How do we know that blood that is put bizrika by throwing it? How do you know that if the kohen did it b'shvicha, if he poured it out, that yatsa? Where do we know that it will work? So says the Gemara, we clearly need this pasuk for other drashas. So how are we saying that it's free, that it's extra, that it can be utilized to teach us our din? Explains the Gemara, you know why? Because Savar La Kirevi Akiva. Because the Tana holds like Rabbi Akiva, Damar, Lo Yizrika Bechlal Shvicha, Lo Yishvicha Bechlal Zrika. Lemaisa, there is an opinion, Rabbi Akiva, that holds that Shvicha and Zrika are not the same thing. We just said that from Dam Zevachechi Yishbaich, we learn out that anytime you need to do Zrika, it will suffice with Shvicha. Says the Gemara that is inaccurate. Rabbi Kiva argues. Titanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Baruch Birchas HaPesach. If someone said the bracha on the carbon Pesach, Patar es shel Zevach. He paters up the carbon that goes with the carbon Pesach, which is the Chagiga. Shel Zevach. If he made the bracha on the Chagiga, lo Patar es HaPesach. He doesn't pater up the carbon Pesach. Divrei Rabbi Yishmael. But Rabbi Akiva Omer comes along Rabbi Akiva and he teaches us Lo Izu by Terezu. No, the Pesach does not pater the Chagiga. The Chagiga does not pater the Pesach. What is the reason? So we look at Rashi towards the end of the narrow lines, and Rashi fills in the blanks that the last leil and Itaran Bizrika Shanasa B'Shvicha Yatza. The Pesach is B'Shvicha. Maybe down to Yishbach Nafkalon. And the Chagiga is going to be with Zerika, and therefore one cannot pater up the next, and that's the reason why it comes along. Rabbi Akiva says Loizu, Einzu Pater Sazu, which teaches us the aside that you need to have, that if that which requires Rika will not be pantered b'shvicha. Continues the Gemara. Also, we continue asking that again. The pasuk of Adam Shevachim Yishbayich that we're learning is the makar for our din. Says the Gemara, is that true? That what the din that one zrika will suffice, one matan dam. A third kasha asks the Gemara. The Chalitani Rabbi Yishmael Eimer Mider Shenemar Ach Bechar Shar Ar Bechar Kesev Ay Bechar Eiz V'Goymer. Says Rabbi Yishmael, the pasuk says the Bechar of an ox, the Bechar of a sheep, the Bechar of a goat. The pasuk concludes that their dam is placed on the mizbeach and their chelev and the fats are burnt. Lamanu, that teaches us lebechar shetan matan damim ve'emurim legav mizbeach meiser u'pesach minayin. But says the Raisa, from where do we know that by Karban Pesach and by Meiser also that the dam has to be placed in the Mizbeach? Tam Lemer, Dam Zevachim Yishbayich. So we see that Dam Zevachim Yishbayich is needed for this din, and it cannot teach us our din that one matan dam will suffice and will affect a kapara. Answers the Gemara, Sablik Rav Yisei Glili, the Tani Rav Yisei Glili, Omer, Damai, Loi Namar, Ela Damam. The Torah does not say Damai, Ela Damam, their blood. Chelbai, Loi Namar, Ela Chelbam, their fat. Lime, Vichiz, Abachar, Meiser, Pesach, Shatan, Matan, Damim, Veimurim, Legav, Mizbeach. So Rav Yisei Glili learns it out from the Damai, Damam, and therefore the pasuk is not needed to teach us this din. Now the Gemara, within this machlekes, Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Yishmael, Haikra mapik le lahachi, umapik le lahachi. Says the Gemara, according to Rabbi Yishmael, the pasuk is going to teach us both. How is that possible? Meaning, very good, you answer me according to Rabbi Yosi. What about Rabbi Yishmael? Says the Gemara, Treitanai, I'll leave it to Rabbi Yishmael. It's going to be a machlekes. What exactly is the opinion of Rabbi Yishmael? Continues the Gemara, 5 lines to the bottom. And now we're going to take a little bit of a segue, a little bit of a parenthetical discussion, which is the discussion that Rabbi Yosef Glili and Rabbi Yishmael just had. Klape, the pasuk of the Bachar, Klape, the din that we could learn out potentially, the Damai Damam, and what is the status of the Matan Damim. So says the Gemara, Bishlam the Rabbi Yishmael Demukim La Kulei Bechar, according to Rabbi Yishmael, entire pasuk is talking about Bachar, and the fact that it says it in the plural teaches us all these different types of Bachar. Hainadachsev ubesara yulacha in the plural. Other Rav Yesi dimukulanami b'maiser Pesach, maiser Pesach bailim achlilei. By Meiser and Pesach, the owner eats it, and therefore my ubesaram yelecha. What does the pasuk mean in the plural? And meat should be yours. The besaram is yours. It's not true. It's not referring to the case of Pesach and Meiser. Answers the Gemara, echatam ve'echad ba'almum. One is ba'etam, one is ba'almud, limeid, which teaches us as we turn over to Lamazayim Mebeis, al b'char ba'almum shenitin lekayin, al b'char malmum, which is given to a kayin shaloi matzinu, that we do not find. We don't find anywhere that a b'chal ba'almum has to be given to a kayin, and this is where it's going to learn it out from. Rabbi Yishmael nafkalei mi lecha yiyeh the seifa. The seifa says lecha yiyeh, and that's where Rabbi Yishmael learns it out. So that's a cyber discussion of Yisei Glili and Rabbi Yishmael. But now, says the Gemara, okay, so you explained to me, Bishlam, the Rabbi Yisei Glili, 4 lines down, Lamzayin Mebeis. Demuklanami b'maisir Pesach anadechsev loy tipa deki kadosh heim. That for the pasuk teaches us heim kerevim vein timar yisayim kerevim titinan timuraz becharo meiser hein uvlad and uvlad v'lad and ad seif galad dairais. All the offsprings are in kibacharo meiser v'yachlu b'muman lebailim. Utinan, and we learned in the Mishnah, Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Shamash Tmuras Pesach Kreva Tmuras Pesach in a Kreva, Vein li lefarish. El Rav Yishmael demukila kulei bebachar u'maiser u'pesach Toloi kareve tumurasan. Says the Gemara. Minale maiser gomer avra mivachar. No. I apologize. 1 second. 1 second. I just caught myself up over here. Let's go back. Let's go all the way back. I apologize. Bishlam Rav Yisrael. One more time. 3 lines from the top. Let's do this properly. Bishlam Rav Yisrael says the Gemara. Demukle nami b'maiser pesach. Hainu dilchsev, the pasuk makes sense. Lo yisifadeh ki kadoshem. And therefore, from there we learn now what? Hein karevim, hein tumor saying karevim. That makes a lot of sense. Utinan. And it makes sense that we learned in a Mishnah or Titanan. Tumuras bechar umaiser. What's the halacha of the tumura of the exchange? If you make one, do you remove the kedusha from the carbon onto another animal? Hein v'ladim v'ladim atzev kol ha'olam. Harein kebachar. Umaiser never loses the status, the original status of bechar and maiser. And v'yachlu b'muman lebailim. And the halacha is the tumura is not able to be brought as a carbon, but rather you wait for the get a mum and the owners eat it. Utinan. And we learned klape the tumura of a pesach. Amar Rav Yeshua shamati shetumura as pesach kareva, utumura as pesach einay kareva. I heard 2 conflicting dinim, and says Rav Yeshua ve'en li lefarish, and I don't know how to explain which one is yes karevim and which one is not karevim. So what do we see? Says the Gemara. According to Rav Yosef Glili, that the pasuk teaches us that the tumura of mais and the tumura of pesach are inon karevim. Elul Rabbi Yishmael, that's the kasha. Demukila kulei b'bachar u'maiser u'pesach. Kulei b'bachar, excuse me. Says all pasuk is talking about bachar, maiser u'pesach to karevim tumarasan minale. So says the Gemara, it comes out that according to Rabbi Yishmael, we're lacking in a makar. How do we know that the tumura of a pesach and the tumura of maiser is indeed einon loy karevim are not brought as a carbon? Answers the Gemara, maiser. Regarding maiser, gomer avara mibachar. Regarding pesach, we learn out adiksiv be kesef. And what does that teach me? Matam leimer im kesef. The rabbis were saying pesach achar pesach. That what shetikar tarev shlamim. Yachal af lefnei pesach kin tam leimer hu. Therefore, the Torah says who, and that's how the Gemara is going to answer up the Machlekes Yosef Glili and the Chacham and Rabbi Yishmael, excuse me. So says the Gemara, okay, now that we clarified what Rabbi Yosef Glili and what Rabbi Yishmael holds, let's go back to the etzem din of our shir, of our Mishnah, of our parak that we began, which is that 1 matan dam suffices. Says the Gemara, V'chol hanach tanoi demav kilei lahidam zevachim yishvech lejosh achina. Lemaisa. We quoted numerous drashes, numerous tanoim, that they held dam zevachim yishvech is not free. That they held dam zevachim yishvech cannot teach me the din of 1 matan dam suffices, because they need it for another drasha. How are all those Tanaim going to know the din in our Mishnah? Says the Gemara, Savri Lu Kibeis Hillel. Guess what? The din of the Mishnah was about Machlekes. And because Beis Hillel extends it even to a chatos, that 1 matana works. So whatever the makar for Beis Hillel is going to be, they're going to learn by the chatos. They'll learn to everything else. We'll stop over here. We'll pick it up from here. Psiyata Dishmai.